Imagine waking up in a world without safety, without medicine, and without hope. A world where dirty water could kill you, where war never truly ended, and where knowledge itself was treated as a crime. The cities burned, kingdoms collapsed, disease spread through the streets like a curse. For nearly 700 years, Europe descended into darkness. This was the Dark Ages.
When Rome fell, order did not disappear slowly. It shattered. Laws collapsed. Armies broke apart. And the roads that once connected an empire became paths of fear. Every village tried to survive alone. Every lord wanted power. And every family lived with the same question: who will come for us next? Europe was no longer one world. It had become hundreds of small fires, burning in the dark.
In the Dark Ages, danger did not only come from war. It came from the water people drank, from the winter that emptied their homes, and from a world where knowledge belonged only to the few. For ordinary people, survival was not a choice. It was a daily battle against hunger, sickness, and fear. Most could not read. Most could not understand the forces destroying their lives. And as villages froze, as rivers carried disease, and as books remained locked behind monastery walls, Europe slipped deeper into a long darkness.
When sickness came, there were no doctors waiting. A child with a fever was carried to a chapel, not to be treated, but to be prayed over. Fear became stronger than reason. Questions became dangerous, and anyone who thought differently could be accused. Books were burned, ideas disappeared into smoke, and the people who searched for truth learned to stay silent. Across Europe, the bells kept ringing, the rain kept falling, and darkness became normal. For many, there was nowhere left to go. Villages burned behind them, church bells rang over empty halls, and families walked through the rain with everything they owned on their backs. The roads of Europe filled with people running from hunger, war, and disease. But even in the darkest places, one small light remained. Not hope yet, just survival. But darkness did not last forever. Slowly, people began to stand together again. Families joined with neighbors, villages built walls, and fear, little by little, turned into fragile order. Trade returned to the muddy streets, coins changed hands, food, tools, and ideas began to move again. And somewhere inside the ruins, a child opened a book. It was not the end of the darkness, but it was the first sign that Europe was beginning to wake up. Then, in small rooms filled with candlelight, curiosity began to return. Hands that once held weapons now held tools, brushes, books, and sketches. In cities like Florence, trade brought money. Money brought artists. And artists brought new ways of seeing the world. Men began to study nature again. The flight of birds, the movement of machines, the shape of the human body. And when the printing press began to move, ideas no longer belonged to the few. They began to spread. Art returned to the walls. For the first time in centuries, people began to paint not only fear, but beauty, movement, and human life. The body was studied again. Nature was questioned again. Machines were imagined before they could even be built. The world had not become safe. The darkness had not disappeared. But something had changed. Europe was no longer only surviving. It was beginning to think. Europe began to look beyond its own ruins. Maps opened. Ships waited in distant harbors. And for the first time in centuries, the future felt larger than fear. The old darkness did not vanish in a single morning. It remained in the walls, in the churches, in the memories of those who survived. But knowledge had begun to move. Books reached more hands. Students filled quiet rooms. And slowly, the world that had once feared questions began to be rebuilt by them. In the end, Europe did not escape darkness by force. It escaped by learning.
The Dark Ages ended, but history did not forget them. The ruins remained, the scars remained, and somewhere between the ashes and the light, the silent witness remained too. Not to change what happened, not to save anyone, only to remember. Because every age leaves behind a warning. Civilization can fall. Fear can rule. Knowledge can disappear. But when people begin to ask questions again, darkness begins to lose its power. This was only one chapter of shadowed history.
If you want to watch more historical videos like this from the Shadowed History channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment.